What's up, YouTube? And I'm back at you with another video. And in today's video, I'm going to give my prediction for a big matchup this Saturday between the Ole Miss Rebels versus the Georgia Bulldogs. This is going to be a really sneaky good game, in my opinion. A lot of people ain't really talking too much about it. And I'm going to just give my, stats on the game. And this is going to be a good one, in my opinion. You got the Ole Miss Rebels ranked number 9 in the country, and you got them going against the number 2 Georgia Bulldogs. In my opinion, I know the rankings came out and they have Ohio State as the number 1 team in the country. I kind of disagree with that. I think Georgia should be number 1. They're undefeated. They're the back-to-back champs. And I just feel like Georgia should be the number 1 team in the country. But nevertheless, they have them at number 2. You got the Ole Miss Rebels going on the road to Athens, and this is going to be a good game, in my opinion. Now, for Ole Miss, they have Jackson Dart at quarterback. So far, he's thrown for 2,467 yards. He has a completion percentage of 65.6, which is really good. He has 16 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So, really good quarterback. Greatly improved from last season, in my opinion. Like he just got settled down with the offense. Behind him, though, he got a great running back in Quishon Judkins. This guy's a beast of a player. He has 793 rushing yards on the season, and he has 12 touchdowns. I mean, just them two guys right there that I just mentioned, really, really good run game for Ole Miss. They also have Ulysses Bentley. He has 388 yards rushing. He has 3 touchdowns. And Jackson Dart has 334 yards on the ground with 7 touchdowns. So this Ole Miss running game is really, really elite. They're going against a good team in Georgia. Georgia, for the most part, does a really, really good job at stopping the run. So something's got to give there. Ole Miss, especially with Lane Kiffin at the helm, man, they're one of the really, really good, sneaky good offensive teams in the country, man. Last season, they had the 3rd best running game in the country. Seems like they still have that run game going. And Jackson Dart has the potential, like I said, to scramble the ball with the rushing yards that I just mentioned. But he can also put the ball down the field as well. So the Georgia Bulldogs are going to have a handful, in my opinion, in this matchup. At wide receiver, Ole Miss has Trey Harris. This is their guy. I mean, this guy, he's their number 1 wide receiver. He has 749 yards receiving. He has 7 touchdowns. Jordan Watkins, he's another guy with 627 with 3 touchdowns. And they also have Dayton Wade, he has 602 receiving yards with 3 touchdowns. So definitely a guy that they need to worry about for the Georgia Bulldogs, Trey Harris. Like I said, he's the main guy, but Ole Miss definitely has some other guys that they need to be worried about as well. But between Quishon Judkins and Trey Harris, those 2 guys are really, really elite. And it's going to be interesting to see what Ole Miss can do. Can they move the ball against the Georgia Bulldog defense? It's going to be a question, but it's going to be very exciting to see. Now, on defense, Ole Miss, in my opinion, has greatly improved. They got Pete Golden from Alabama, and Ole Miss is no slouch, man. They one of the good teams in the SEC that's good at, causing disruption up front. So far, Ole Miss has 31 sacks on the season. Really, really good team at getting to the quarterback. Georgia, in their last matchup against Missouri was able to get back there a couple times against Carson Beck. So the Georgia Bulldogs offensive line has to block up front because Mississippi got a really, really good sack team, really, really good team. Passes defended, they have 32, and they have 10 interceptions on the season. The leading tackler on defense is Trey Washington. He's a safety. He has 59 total tackles, and he has 2 interceptions and 2 passes defended. I'm sorry. Also, John Saunders Jr. at safety. He has 3 interceptions. So those safeties are really, really good for Ole Miss. They do have problems, though. They have given up a lot of points to a lot of teams, specifically LSU. LSU had a really, really good offense, and they gave up a lot of points in that matchup. But this Ole Miss defense, in my opinion, has greatly improved. And like I said, very optimistic, really, really good team. Can cause problems, can cause disruption. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Georgia O-line can hold up. Like I said, they got guys like Jeremiah John Baptiste. He has half a sack. He has a pass defended. It's just a lot of guys, man, on this team. Zamarian Walton at cornerback. I mean, just a lot of different guys that cause problems. But if you were to pair the two defenses, Georgia definitely has the better defense of the two. So it's going to be interesting to see what Ole Miss can do on the road at Athens. Now, the Georgia Bulldogs, Carson Beck has thrown for 2,716 yards, completion percentage of 72.2. Should be in the Heisman, should be on the Heisman list, in my opinion. Should be in the race. Done a phenomenal job. He's thrown 16 touchdowns with 4 interceptions. They have identical stats between Carson Beck and Jackson Dart, almost identical. Both teams do a good job of passing the ball downfield. But both teams also have the ability to run the ball. For Georgia, Dejon Edwards, 633 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns on the season. They're starting to get the run game going really, really good. They kind of struggled with that early on, but it seems like they found something in their last matchup against Missouri. Kendall Milton, he's getting more involved. He has 295 rushing yards for 5 touchdowns. And as long as I've remembered, Georgia always was a really, really good running team. So now that they got that run game going, this is going to be a heck of a matchup for the Ole Miss Rebels defense. Now, receiver, they have Dominic Lovett, 398 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Marcus Rosemary Jackson, Lad McConkey, man. Those two guys, man. Jackson and McConkey, good wide receivers. They also got Ra Thomas. Oscar Delp has definitely stepped up in the absence of Brock Bowers. This guy has 224 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns. So Carson Beck, it seems like they haven't, dropped the beat, offensively for the Georgia Bulldogs. And one stat that I noticed, Georgia has one of the top 10 defenses and offenses in the country overall. So just a complete team all the way around. And like I mentioned, she'll be the #1 team in the country. Defensively, Smell Munden, 44 total tackles, 2 sacks, 1 pass defended. Kamari Lassiter, Malachi Starks, Javon Bullard, all those guys, man, defensively for this Georgia Bulldogs team. Just really, really good. Nazir Stackhouse, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was the guy that almost ran that ball back in that matchup. I can't remember who it was. I think it was against Missouri, but almost ran the ball back. But just talented all the way around defense. And one of the best defenses in the country in the Georgia Bulldogs. Kirby just did a phenomenal job with that team overall. And they're definitely a team that's definitely going to compete this season for a playoff title if they can get out the SEC East and get into the championship. Like I said, lots on the line between these two teams. Ole Miss can still win the West. If Alabama were to drop 2 more games, like I said, they got to play Kentucky. They got to play Auburn at the end of the year. If somehow, Alabama were to lose 2 games, Ole Miss can get in there, in my opinion. And then, like I said, with Georgia, just a really, really good team. Total sacks for Georgia, I want to read that. They have 19 sacks on the season. They have 11 interceptions. So, like I said, 2 teams, really, really similar as far as, the quarterback position is concerned. Both of the quarterbacks are basically identical in their stats. What's going to give, who's going to take over in this matchup is going to be key. Total points per game for Georgia, they're getting 40 points a game. That's really, really good. very, very efficient offense. They do everything well. Run the ball and pass. Passing, they're getting 325 yards a game. You can't ask for anything better than that. Carson Beck has done a phenomenal job for the Georgia Bulldogs. Running game, uh, Georgia's getting 167 yards a game. Just an elite offense, and you can understand why they're ranked so high, both offensively and defensively. Just a very, very well uh, disciplined team. Very, very coached up team in the Georgia Bulldogs. For Ole Miss Rebels, they're averaging 38.8 yards a game, points per game. So, like I said, similar stats, with the points per game. Passing game, uh, Ole Miss is getting 297 yards a game. Really, really good passing. Really, really good passing yards. And rushing yards a game, Ole Miss is getting 181. That's even better than what Georgia's doing right now. So just two elite offenses in the two teams. Which offense is going to have their day? Uh, it's going to be interesting to see. Now, last 5 opponents for both teams. Ole Miss beat LSU 55-49. Just an offensive scoring game. Neither team was really playing defense in that matchup. Arkansas, Ole Miss beat them 27-20. They beat Ole Miss beat Auburn 28-21. Close matchup there. Vanderbilt, Ole Miss beat Vanderbilt 33-7, and then Ole Miss had a big victory at home against the Texas A&M Aggies 38-35. So a lot of people not looking into that. For Ole Miss to be able to run the ball like they did, man. Ole Miss O-line did a pretty good job against Texas A&M front. Texas A&M got a really, really good front that a lot of people uh, probably looked over that victory for Ole Miss. So good victory for Ole Miss. Now Georgia's last 5 opponents: Auburn, they beat them 27-20. Similar stats, how they did with Ole Miss did with Auburn. Kentucky, they beat them 51-13, just completely shut down Kentucky. Everybody thought Kentucky had a could potentially upset Georgia in that matchup. Georgia just completely shut that all the way down, held that Kentucky team to 13 points. Uh, Georgia went on the road to Vanderbilt, beat them 37-20. They gave up some points in that game, but nothing I felt like was anything to be worried about. Georgia beat Florida 43-20. Then they beat Missouri 30-21. If you were to look at those stats, those points, you would think, like Georgia might be in trouble playing against the Ole Miss Rebels. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. The game is, like I said, going to be played in Sanford Stadium. Point spread right now is 10.5 points for Georgia. If I had to give my prediction for this matchup, I got Georgia win this game. Georgia, a really, really good team. I just think they're good all the way around. Now, the key, in my opinion, is going to be Ole Miss. Can they get their run game going? Like I said, was able to run the ball against Texas A&M defensive front. Texas A&M got a really, really good defensive line, and they were stopping teams early on in the season from running the ball, and Ole Miss was able to have their way and run the ball. So if Georgia can win that matchup up front, I think this game ends early. I think Georgia going to come out firing on all cylinders. Once they figure out what Ole Miss is trying to do, I think Georgia's going to just shut it down, and they're just going to be able to just run the ball very, very good, and just suffocate the Ole Miss offense, But it's going to be interesting to see. I do think Ole Miss might do some things, might be in this game. Could be a close game. I see two different scenarios. I can see Ole Miss having a real close game, but giving the Georgia Bulldogs a scare. And I can also see Georgia just blowing the doors off of Ole Miss. Their defense is not nowhere near Georgia's defense, and I think that's going to be the thing that gets Georgia to win in this victory, in this game. I just don't think Ole Miss defensively can hold up to the Georgia offense. And the offense is not going to be able to do have enough sustained drives against the Georgia Bulldogs defense. But what do you guys think? Leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. And once again, if you haven't, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And I'll definitely be back with more college football content. Thanks, guys, and roll tide.